says here we should work in teams. I tend to think of myself as a one-man wolf pack.
You're about to enter Information Overload, a worldwide transmission with Herp Paray's featured Breeder of the Week. Here's your host, Jason Rossi.
Welcome back to Herp Paray, a weekly internet transmission. I'm your host, Jason Rossi. We're simulcasting on RossiReptiles.com, Buzzsprout, and don't forget to subscribe and download us on iTunes. This week's very special guest is none other than the evil morph god, Kevin McCurley, from NERD, New England Reptile Distributors. Just now before the show, the skies opened up, and it just let buckets loose on us, and thunder and lightning. Not sure if it was an omen or a sign or just the evil morph god's going to be on our show, but welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thank you very much. I like that intro.
Cool. Yeah, I try.
Yeah,
but,
sound great.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to just thank Raffy for shooting those videos. They're very informative. It's what the hobby needs, and we definitely appreciate you doing that, taking time out and sharing what you have going on. So we definitely cannot wait for Part 2 and Part 3 of 2012 Nerd.
Oh, there better be. There should be many, many parts.
Okay, so you got a new book coming out. Is it the Eye Candy edition or something else up your sleeve?
Actually, yeah, I'm sitting here editing Het Red Axanthic. Actually, no, Het Red Stripe picture right now. Okay, I'm going to focus. Basically, so we take the first ball python book that I did, and then we did like little updates with the German. We did like 2 German versions. But now pretty much, I think like the new book is going to be like the Never Complete or the Incomplete Ball Python. And it's going to be a pretty big change from the last book. The layout is very different. I gave it a lot of thought. I'm pretty excited the way it's working. I have I'm trying to basically think a bit in the future as, just in the past 5 years, how rapidly things have progressed. All the people breeding stuff and they're just making, ridiculous stuff. And it's like, wow, we're getting inundated with so many different, combos and stuff. So we kind of need to organize it before it just gets completely out of hand. So I kind of redid the basics of how this book is going to go, but this is pretty much like a cookbook. I'm not going to really focus on how to take care of your ball python or anything like that. This is going to pretty much assume that everybody is capable snake keeper, and more. I really want to make it so we're bringing in new people, and I want to bring it down to simple terms that a little 12-year-old kid with this book underneath his arm can walk into a pet store. A lot of pet stores are now doing ball python mutations, and he can go, okay, I want this and this, and this is what it's going to do, and I want to kind of get things to progress. I think it's going to help a lot of the breeders out there. It's going to help them educate their customers. It's certainly going to educate the customers about what they do like, what they don't like, and what they hope to make. And that's kind of like the way it's going to be. But I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be like 500 pages.
So wait, you're not from the future then?
No, definitely not from the future.
Oh, okay. I was confused.
Not at all.
So,
hopefully we're going to create
sounds
future here.
Awesome. You definitely are, man. You're leading the way, I'd say, with the Orion's balls. So
yes.
What would you say about that Orion ball?
It's basically an Inferno combo. I'll let that stuff out. Pretty much, I guess I like to keep people thinking sometimes, and I think I'll always have, let's say if I produce 30 snakes or something like that of new stuff or whatever. I like some stuff I'll just reveal right off the bat. Other ones you kind of let people play around with it and stuff like that. And then as I make something else good, I'm like, okay, I'm going to let them know what this is, and I kind of keep progressing. And if you talk to some of these breeders, you get all different kinds of people in this industry. You have we get people that are just really, really just awesome. Hey, Cav, I love your snakes. As they're appreciative and all that kind of stuff. And we get a lot of people like that. And you get other people which are they kind of jump into this thing. Hey, this is an opportunity, to cash out and stuff like that. I'm like an animal guy. I'm a snake breeder. The last thing I am is a business guy. And over the years, it's been painfully obvious that you have people that want to, they'll benefit. I've made a lot of mistakes. I do combos that don't work, or, it's a letdown, or this is really good, and all that kind of stuff. And I want people, especially my customers that actually buy some ingredients from me, I want them to be able to, benefit from some of the interesting stuff that I do. And I want it so when they're breeding this stuff, they have a market that they can sell their snakes to, and they can progress. The last thing I want to be is to be that kind of breeder that I make something, I get people interested, I sell the combos, and then I race around them, and I go and try to snag up all their customers. I think it's almost like a tier type system. So if I make cool stuff, and then I instantly just give out always the ingredients to the people that maybe like, the haters of me, and I certainly have them, and, I'm kind of giving them the leg up, and they don't appreciate, those are the people, they don't appreciate anybody's work. So they don't appreciate what Mike Wilbanks has done. They don't appreciate anything. They're like, I see an opportunity. I'm going to get this morph. I'm going to breed it. I'm going to sell the male as soon as I bred it, and then sell the babies and cash out, raise another male, and blah, 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 blah. And they just have this, it's like this almost scheme, how to, build that way. And I didn't really come into it like that. The thing why I'm going on about that is it shortens the life of our ball python breeding mutation game. And I think it's just, I really just, I don't want to see this thing just end and get burnt out, because pretty much ball pythons are it. They're the last leg of this. We're seeing some cool stuff in hognose and whatnot, but, carved pythons to a much lesser degree. But once we've totally satisfied a lot of these urges with ball python people, what's the next species we're going to work with? I don't really think there's going to be one. So I have to be a little cryptic is my answer. But the Orion is definitely an Inferno combo. It's quite nice.
I understand that, man. You work hard on something, you just don't want to give it away, and somebody just flub it up.
There's a lot of people who like to flub up projects, and it's sometimes they'll get into it, and you get people that are like absolutely got a chip on the shoulder or angry, and they'll want to hurt a project or hurt you. It's just, boy, the stories we could go into are just amazing. But people definitely jump on the coattails of other people, and and there's jealousy and stuff like that. I'm jealous of other breeders. I see stuff, I'm like, oh my God, look at that. And it's like, I don't, sit there and trade in a couple souls so they fail. But it's there's a lot of cool stuff out there, and I think some of that jealousy is what motivates us. And just like anybody, I have some people I'm jealous of, like they're cool snakes, but I don't, literally hate them, but there are people out there that really want to destroy things, and they really kind of ruin it for everybody.
Well, they just let you know that you succeeded. They're hating on you that much, focusing that much energy, on you. Then you've done it, my friend.
Oh yeah, I hear all sorts of fantastic stories about me.
Well, I'm gonna say you're the man. So okay,
I don't know about that.
So, okay, most men aren't proud of a bald head, so tell us about that gene.
Oh, the bald head gene. Oh, yes. Okay. That is, I think this year is actually pretty cool, because there's all these little dinker kind of things. I don't really know. It came out of something. Let's put it that way. And I started noticing, wow, a couple of these snakes, they're lighter, and they, let's say if you look at a spinner, so it's a spider pinstripe, and that's, pretty reduced. But we noticed, wow, this thing's head's really clean and all that kind of stuff. We kind of got it into, some of the bumblebee pin stuff. Ultimately, what happened is we bred it into a killer bee pin enchie. And so that's a super pastel spider pin enchie. And it just by itself, that snake is just awesome. I love it. It's very, very soft. It has very, very limited pattern. Real nice yellow with the enchie blurring. And I bred that to, just in one case, a normal female. And this was only a possible bald head, because as we start laying on these genes, you can't clearly, define, oh, this is literally 100% this. And this is right off the bat, some of my haters will be like, oh, on his video, she's he doesn't even know what's in the breedings. He doesn't even know what's going on. That's like, I just don't want to be an arrogant jerk and sit here, like, because I'm going to sometimes think, hey, this is this and this and this, and literally I'm going to sometimes be wrong. And certainly as we start layering, 5 genes or more. So let's be a little bit modest here. We think it's that, but this is not an exact science. So when I bred this killer bee pin Enchi, which turns out it's a bald head, it's got the bald head gene, it started producing these babies that, like, you could do like a bumblebee pin, and then you can do like a bumblebee pin with a bald head. And it's like cleaner, and then you start making like Lemon Blast Enchi, and then you start making this Lemon Blast Enchi, which is cleaner and softer and brightens it up. And then when you really start noticing is when I made like a bumblebee pin Enchi that kind of looked like it was like a super. So as you start stacking these genes up, it has more pronounced effect. But it came out of something that I was doing when I was playing around with like Enchi stuff mixed into like bumblebee pin stuff. I cannot tell you exactly where it came from. And I think other breeders are going to be going through the same kind of thing. Little things, we're finally going to just start lining stuff up, and we start seeing an attribute that we want to work with. And as we're selectively, line breeding, we're naturally going to start hitting on the stuff that's within all of our collections. So I can't tell you anything other than the fact that it seems like it's a codom or a dominant gene, and it definitely pretties things up. And I've had multiple clutches of it, and both clutches the same kind of results. You make like a bumblebee Enchi bald head, and it's just a cleaner version than a bumblebee Enchi.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, in one of your videos you stated that all ball pythons, even the normal ones, carry, special genes. It's just going to take you figuring that out.
Yeah, well,
did I remember that rightly?
Yeah, it keeps happening. This year, this is rather pathetic. I have this. It's like a dinker female, and it's like this coffee-colored ball python, and it's with nice blushing on the side. And the thing that's really hard to discern, when you're looking through imports, and we're looking, king snake and all these different cool dinker females or males or whatever, and they have all different things. We're like, oh, look at that. It's got this, and it's got that. And a lot of times you keep these snakes, and you raise them, and you breed them, and they don't turn out to be genetic. Occasionally we do hit something that is genetic. So I had this snake. It just looked cool. I bred it with the right snake, which happened to be like Lucifer stuff, and it turns out that it made the axe-like super version of Lucifer coffee, and that would be the equivalent of, let's say, like a vanilla cream. So it would be a vanilla fire. So if you bred a vanilla fire to a normal, all resulting babies are vanillas and fires. So I call that axe like a super. It cannot replicate itself. So this is in the same complex as vanilla, fire, disco, lemonback, sulfur, ember, Lucifer, and this coffee thing now. So I'll take some pictures, but what I'm kind of like afraid of is all of a sudden somebody sees a picture of it and like, oh, I got that ball python, and everybody's going to like, this is a coffee ball, this is a coffee ball. And it doesn't work like that, because I have other snakes that I could potentially say, yeah, that kind of looks like that too, and they're nothing the same. So then we have another snake, which is, this is the stupidest one of all. It's just a dinker wild-caught female, and I did not go, oh my God, this is, whatever. It has like a line faintly across the back of its head. And I bred that to a chocolate combo, and that made a pretty cool-looking snake. It looked like one of those snakes that come out of Africa that's like black melted sides, partial dorsal stripe down the back, the gold dorsal stripe kind of thing, and the color's all, wonky and stuff like that. And that one turns out, it's like this headline, which I just call it this headline ball or whatever. So it's like a headline chocolate, but that comboed out really, really cool. So I think we can take some of these snakes that are in all our collections, certainly if you have more than 20 snakes or something like that, just unlocking a potential something that's like going to act like a fulcrum and a lever to a genetic attribute that some of these snakes have. I think it's potentially in our collections. We already have so much lineage of ball pythons. We just got to keep doing it. We got to keep mixing it. Like when you use something like a yellow-belly, that unlocks stuff. And then, like yellow-belly unlocks, gravel and highway and specter. That truly in itself is amazing. So then you get these animals that are on the, fire, Lucifer loci, and that unlocks, a bunch of different stuff there. And the more, I start seeing these things play out, a little better I'm getting as far as, like mapping out, okay, we have this one locus where stuff is going on, and now I need to go through the other morphs available, and, these things might line up on this locus, or, loci or whatever, and it's just a matter of time. We're gonna see all this stuff in these collections, just people send me this picture. I got this, light snake with a clear belly, and it's like, what is it? And I'm like, I don't know. But it doesn't mean that it's not anything, because if they made it up to the right thing, boom, the thing can just, you can make the next killer thing. So I think there's a ton more that's going to just keep coming out.
So is there a super form of the Lucifer?
Okay. Lucifer. I would expect that there is a super form of the Lucifer. I bred Lucifer to Lucifer this year for the first time, and I actually think I genuinely missed. I didn't hatch out anything that I was like, I was thinking, hey, maybe I'll get like a partially white snake, like a fire, because the Lucifer has like a clear belly with like lines on, ventral lines on each side as it joins the side pattern, and a completely bald belly. So I was thinking maybe, it's a little bit closer to being a fire. Because when I first got it, I was like, it's a specter. No, it's a fire. And, I bred it, and it turned out it was, like this codom appearing gene. So I was thinking of something like that. But when I did breed it back to itself this year, I didn't hatch anything that was mind-blowing at all. And when I bred it to a vanilla, I was originally thinking it was a fire. It was a wild-caught fire, because my original animal is a wild-caught female. She got a big neck scar and all that stuff, and she's been kind of like a difficult breeder and stuff like that. I've only bred her a couple times, and I bred her to a vanilla because I thought I was going to make a vanilla cream. It didn't make a vanilla cream, and I was like, I was like, the joke in house here was at Nerd, we're like, it's the ugly cream. And, and then as it started shedding and started growing, I was like, wow, it's getting prettier. And I just changed it to a racer head because the head was blanking out. It's truly not as an impressive combo as vanilla cream, as a super vanilla or anything like that, but it is in its own right. It's quite nice. But that, obviously isn't act like a super, so it's a fire Lucifer. But I think I've whiffed on the super Lucifer so far. Maybe there's a possibility that I didn't, and it's buried underneath like a hidden gene Woma combo, because that's what I used in this breeding. But I know there has to be a super. There's just, it's definitely in that whole, complex. So I just think I'd sum it up to bad luck so far.
Just going to have to breed it out.
Yeah, and we'll, hopefully do it again, this coming up season. I have a couple females from a previous breeding that hopefully will be big enough, and it's, it's its own thing. It's I really like it. I think a lot of us love it when we have these little dinker projects that come to fruition. So we get a little excited about it, but it does some kind of interesting things. It brings, like, I look at snakes as having, this almost infinite set of layers, or actually it's a finite set of layers, but each one of the layers might have a little bit of, like, this layer might have a little bit of yellow hue, which is on this part of the pattern, and you take all these layers, like on transparency sheets, and ultimately that creates the final normal wild-caught ball python. And as we're manipulating genes by, this captive breeding, we're adding or we're taking away, or, turning some of these layers, clear or whatever. So I think what the Lucifer gene is doing is bringing some of the underlying kind of like whiteness that we see, that comes between the scales and all that kind of stuff. And so as it does that, if I breed it, let's say, to like a bumblebee, it kind of whitens it, and it kind of brings it towards like the killer bee kind of thing, but it doesn't have a ton of yellow in it. And I really like that because it's leaning towards desert ghosts, and I love desert ghosts. Desert ghosts, like everything's better with desert ghosts. I mean, it totally cleans up stuff, gets rid of the black stippling, and it like gets rid of, I think, these layers that are on the snake that are, that are noise. So, just like a fire, takes a pastel and really, just makes it awesome. The Lucifer does the same kind of thing, but it's a little different than the fire. It's like more of an extreme fire, in my opinion. Certainly within my collection, it's more extreme.
And like the eraser head is more like the super vanilla because their heads are super washed out, even more.
Well, the eraser head is actually it would act more like a vanilla cream because it's a fire, and so it's a fire, and it's like the fire complex. So it would be the Lucifer times vanilla, and the reason why it's not a fire is because when I bred it to a vanilla, it did not make a vanilla cream as I originally expected it to. It made like something that's lesser than all of those. It's it's just maybe not as impressive looking. So it's basically going to be like the axe-like super. So just like a vanilla cream in that respect. And that's why we're still left with we don't know what the super is. I don't know if I'm like rambling too much, and I do apologize for that. I'm just trying to make this stuff clear.
No, this is what the people want, man. They want to hear you, not me. So let's switch it up to Inferno then. Why don't you explain that to our listeners?
Okay, I love Inferno. Inferno's great. It's basically, Hidden Gene Woma, which everybody can, whatever. Maybe I picked the wrong name for that originally, but it's amazing. We learned so much. It would have been better if I just called it, the Binky Ball or something like that. But for now, it's the Hidden Gene Woma. That's its name. And I had the original line of Woma from wild origin, and then I had this other very similar looking animal, which I thought was another Woma ball. It was just more like a goldy platinum kind of color, and I thought these two like animals were like enough that they were the same thing. It'd be like comparing two very similar looking like pinstripes, but not the same. And I bred them together, and I made the resulting super, which is the most dreadful ball python known to man, which happens to be the Pearl, which is just it's like I rule at bad luck, and I will always bring out the worst in something. And I, of course, hatch out basically, essentially, it's a leucistic that completely is a neurological nightmare. And, of course, I had to do that. I had to hatch out this thing at the time, which was like, groundbreaking, oh, my God, and all this stuff. And it has to twirl around, tie itself in knots, and ultimately fail. So anyways, so you take a Hidden Gene Woma, and you take a normal Woma, and something was going on in there, and I didn't really know what was going on, so I'm kind of breeding them around. And ultimately I discerned, well, this Woma doesn't genetically act like this one. And I was originally calling them both Womas because, it kind of looked like a, Woma python, Australian Woma python. So I just started, well, this one has a hidden gene. And I actually think there's a lot of stuff going on with the Hidden Gene Womas. What's interesting about Hidden Gene Womas is if I took a Hidden Gene Woma and I bred it to a normal, those resulting babies, I produce Hidden Gene Womas, and then I produce normals. I can breed that Hidden Gene Woma back to another Hidden Gene Woma, and I can make a pearl. I can breed it to a normal Woma. I can make a pearl. I can breed it to, champagne. I can make a pearl. So it's all kind of landing on that loci. So I can take a normal Hidden Gene Woma offspring and breed it back to a Hidden Gene Woma, and I can make a pearl. But it looks normal. Why is that? And I kind of see a kinship to like the lesser platinum, where you take a lesser platinum, breed to normal. Those resulting normals, you could then breed them back to a lesser, and you can make a daddy platy. And so I see a parallel right there. And what's remarkable, when you breed the Hidden Gene Woma to a lesser, now we're making, soul suckers. And Chun down at Dynasty Reptiles, he bred it into the the butter complex, butter and lessers are, different bloodlines, but they're, the same loci. So it seems like they're acting exactly the same. So Chum was able to take the hidden gene woma, breed it to a butter, and he made, equivalent, the butter soul suckers. So some weird things are going on. I don't know why it makes a striped animal. I don't really know. So we take, going back to an inferno, we take a hidden gene woma, and then we brought in the granite, and the granite seemed to almost adhere to it. So I think we have like this cross genetic, latching or whatever you want to call it, because I took my original hidden gene woma, bred it into this, busy granite, and all of a sudden it kind of like adhered. So a lot of my hidden gene womas, predominantly most of my hidden gene womas, are displaying this granite characteristic. On the back of the head you get this dot, and you get some dots on the body, and as you start loading up more genes, it creates all these little dots, and it busies it up. Then originally I added a lemon pastel, which by itself is a color mutation, but it's also a limited pattern mutation. Get the neck striping. It makes, for a very, very nice-looking pastel jungle. And then we brought in, just our line of Yellow-Belly, which we originally called Bling Yellow-Belly, that has, it's just kind of like some Yellow-Bellies are more severe than others, and some bloodlines are the same. And it's a really nice bloodline. It's kind of like a dark animal with a lot of blushing on the sides in best case examples. So those 4 genes combined together make an inferno. And, best case scenario inferno is we get this, the side blushing from the yellow belly with the, the fade through, you see from the pastel. You get a tighter pattern. You get a lot of, busyness, which is brought on by the lemon pastel and the granite. So all those things together really kind of mesh well and make this, this quad gene combo.
Well, we're going to keep it hidden gene woma. Yeah, that was awesome.
Say again?
Man.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it hidden gene woma and talk about the hidden gene woma granite Lucifer. This thing is insane.
Okay, yeah. So it's you probably like. I think what's really nice is hidden gene woma, granite, Lucifer, and then you add the yellow belly, and you get these severe flames. Even just the hidden gene woma, granite, Lucifer is really nice. You get like this blonde snake. I've made like the pastel, granite, hidden gene, Lucifer. I have to sit here and think about these genes. And I've made those before, and as they grow, they're getting, whiter and all that stuff. But I haven't been able to make just the hidden gene woma, Lucifer, granite stuff until just now. I've only had a couple breedings into this, getting this going. I'm really pretty excited about that because it makes a very, very clean animal, and it blondes it out. And I'm a big fan of blonde snakes with, blushing within the saddles.
So that hidden gene woma, granite, pastel, Lucifer, in that video, did it have yellow belly in it? Did you find out, or still?
I think I'm figuring it out now. We have both. So I think we're making the Inferno, that quad gene with the Lucifer, and then we're making ones without it. And as stuff is starting to shed, we're starting to see yellow belly and some stuff. Before I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I can't really tell. And I think, as a breeder, as, a lot of these, breeders, we play with stuff. I often hatch stuff, and it comes out, and I don't quite understand what I'm looking at. I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm, like, absorbing it, and then I walk away, and then I come back to it. And sometimes it might take a week for me to take it in, and then I start kind of getting the basis of it, and then it sheds, and then it kind of locks everything in there because, obviously it's our dream. I'd love to say, I got, 10 gene animal, and I'm certain it's 10 genes. Well, that's always wishful thinking. So I want to see yellow belly and all that stuff because, hey, I can do more with it, but I don't want to see something that's not there. And so you kind of just got to step back and let the thing, show itself. And it's amazing as we start stacking these genes, stuff, if we started with the initial baby picture, after it sheds, okay, it looks like this, and we have to take Kevin's word on it, because I've already been staring at it a lot. And then as they've shed a couple times, then you're like, wow, I didn't even see the enchi in there. He said it was enchi in there, and all of a sudden you just start seeing this, the saturated color you get from enchi, or the subtle nature of enchi will do this blurring kind of thing. And so I'm learning more the telltale signs of how this stuff goes. But every year is hardcore learning experience for me, completely. So, I'm as I progress, I get some stuff under my belt, but equally I'm hatching out new stuff that I'm completely lost in space on. And it's always great when like Rafi comes up to visit, or somebody on a tour or customers, and you start pulling stuff out that I've gotten used to it, and they're like, what the heck is that? And it kind of brings you back down. You're watching them, and it makes you smile because you start getting used to this stuff. And that was one of the things Rafi did as one of my customers. He would just come in here, and I kind of I'm a little antisocial and maybe a little bit elusive because I got so much stuff going on. And Rafi kind of just was like, knock knock, you got this stuff and people don't even know about it or whatever. So it's good, and it encourages me to to just stay on my game.
To encourage other breeders, man. You just setting goals that we're 10 years, 20 years out from. It's insane.
Yeah, that's a big bullseye on my back. One thing that was probably good for everybody was when I built my building. I had, it was a couple of years, I wasn't really breeding much. I was going from this other place to this big giant building, and completely involved in the building process, very distracted. So the first breeding year in here was, it was terrible. Second one, I turned it over to my guys, and all right, you guys breed ball pythons, and that didn't work very well. And we've had definitely some bumps and hiccups in the road. And about 3 years ago, I got it back together and started turning things around. And last year wasn't quite as good as I wanted to, but I still did pretty well. This year is pretty good. I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff, but I'm never happy with what I do. I completely stink a whole bunch of different projects. I botch it. I miss. I whiff. I get distracted and stuff like that. So I guess I guess it's probably a good thing I was down for a couple of years.
Well, last year we had a rough season ourselves, man, and we lost a lot last year. Well, not a lot, a lot to us, but. And then I just think back, that thread, where you guys lost a lot, man, and it's just how can I quit?
Yeah, I've had some pretty ridiculous setbacks, my own mistakes, we had a huge, we had an ice storm. I think it was 2009, January 16th or something like that. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Ever. We lost power for 4 days, and I had generators, but not generators that can handle this entire building for 4 days, and that was one of the most hellacious experiences I've ever gone through, because it was you just drive around, and it was total state of emergency. It was 16 degrees outside. Everybody should know that when you feed snakes and they have food in their stomachs, and you get those snakes down, below 50 degrees or even in 50 degrees, potentially the food rots and snakes will die. And, there's all these different things. So emergency generators are good, especially as we're investing in this stuff, and we always kind of we don't think for the worst, but you should, as you're investing in this stuff, kind of create a little emergency plan. Hey, if we were to lose power, one of the best things you can do is get a generator, 5,000 watts, and figure out how you can backfeed your main breaker panel in your house. That means when you lose power, you shut off your main breaker that goes to the street, and now you depend on in-house power to limp along and keep your power going. Water, basic necessities, getting, your heating system going. But it's easy enough to do if you think about it when it's still warm out. The worst thing to do is, oh my God, we lost power, and I'm going to run to the Home Depot or whatnot and try to get a generator that's already been sold out. Really, really, really invest in it now. I completely was an idiot, and I didn't quite appreciate it now. I mean, then I appreciate it now. Every year, winter creates problems for me, and I will definitely, I have losses because of that. Even with, a big, nice generator, you still make mistakes. I'm the greatest example of somebody who will make a lot of mistakes and somehow keeps eking along.
But you're sharing your mistakes, like sharing it with the public is, it's helping them tremendously.
It's truly, it's humbling. It really is. And I get my snakes and my animals humble me. Always. People, it's funny when people have this interpretation of, it's just, endless amount of animals and all this different stuff, and, you're just living high on the hog. You can look at it whether a snake dies, whether a snake gets stolen, whether you blow the breeding, whether all these different things happen, and believe me, they do. Or the most fantastic snake in the world is kinked in its egg, or, this can happen to anybody. And I just happen to, hey, I have good things happen, I have bad things happen, I guess it makes it so when you do have something good, it's just that much even, it's that much better. But I don't want people to think that this came easy. It doesn't. It's been a lot of hard work, and there's some people that really have exceptional luck. I don't think that I'm one of them. But you get people, I get this bullseye on my back or whatever, and it's like, wow, if you guys only knew what I go through. I'll give you a good example. This is one of the most brutal things that have ever happened to me. I had the most important snake that I've ever made. Getting ready for the breeding season, I just started putting with some girls, and I started seeing some breeding activity out of him. And so one day, I pull up in his drawer. He's with the girl. He's not there. I'm like, where's the snake? And all of a sudden, panic. Oh my God, could be another drawer. So I, running around, can't find it. All of a sudden, it's just like white noise in your ears. Oh my God, where's my male? His tag is on this cage above him. He's not there. What's going on? After the most frantic set of activity, this is in the middle. This is basically, it's winter. So one of my guys was like, oh my God, could have gotten thrown out. It's like, how could this have gotten thrown out? No way. It can't be in the trash. So tears apart the dumpster. We're looking, hopefully it's loose. Somebody just missed it. They brought me the snake frozen. The snake was in the trash. And that snake was a coral glow het pied, my breeder male. And one of my employees, who, was a good employee, made a mistake. And I don't know what they were doing. They were too busy playing on their cell phone. I don't know. They somehow overlooked the snake, rolled it up in its newspaper, saw a female, took the female out, rolled the snake up there, and it's, dead. It's frozen. And, that's a huge hit. He was all ready to go. It's just painful even talking about it. But that kind of stuff happens. So people that hate me, get your laughs.
So is that person still employed there at Nerds?
No. But you know what? The person was horrified, and I had to put my big boy pants on, and you just verbally lashing out at them. And they didn't mean it. They're actually a good employee. I didn't even fire them. I didn't do anything. They ended up, their father made them quit. Let's just put it that way. For no apparent reason except for some people weren't getting along. It's just the stupidest thing. So I basically, I'm out a decent employee, and I'm out my snake. And there's no silver lining in this story. None.
2 steps backwards, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, we're about to get dirty right here, so anybody that has a little sensitivity issues might want to push pause or leave the room. We're going to talk about some things that people, I don't know why they don't want to talk about it, but let's talk about the coral glow versus banana.
Okay, that's real simple. They're the same thing. They're two different origins. Same exact thing. You could say banana could be a little bit yellower. You could say the coral glow is a little bit more orange, whatever. But you know what? I can go show you a whole variation of coral glows that vary. They vary quite a bit. It's like lemon pastel versus, Graziani pastel. They're different bloodlines, so they might have their own attributes, and that is literally it. Just like we could say black pastel and cinnamon pastel, are the same. If we're, starting to talk about things that land on the same loci, then we could say a whole bunch of different stuff is the same. Lesser platinum is the same as, butter. We could just, say the same thing, on a lot of this different stuff, but, out of respect to a lot of breeders, people, doing a lot of work, bloodlines and all these different things, we do discern and differentiate between things. Will Slow got the banana in. Nerd and Freedom Breeder got the coral glow in, and, they just came from different origins. They probably came from different countries even. I think one coral glow came from Ghana, and quite possibly the other one came from Benin or Togo, the one Will Slow has. But essentially, they both are the same. My question is there truly a super? John over at Albinos Unlimited, he'd probably be the best person to basically verify that. He has one banana that's whiter than the normal banana, which actually is, I'm sure he'd even admit it, it's not as attractive as a normal banana, which is, fantastic. I have not bred coral glow to coral glow with any, I've hatched out a super. I haven't done that. So this year, once again, I did the same breeding, the coral glow to coral glow, and we'll see what I end up hatching. I think I got 8 eggs out of that breeding, and we'll see. And I don't know if there's any questions about sex linking. That sex linking thing is the most fantastic set of confusing facts known to any of the ball python things. Certainly when I talk to even a geneticist that can just ramble about genetics, they are completely dumbfounded how the genetics and the sex linking is going on the coral glow and the banana. But since no one so far has asked for that, I won't go off because, I remember when I first revealed, the sex linking, Kevin's making this up. And, it is the most, I guess people love drama in this kind of thing. So we're naturally always going to have, drama, banana, coral glow, whatever. I really don't care, the petty people and their nonsense. But, when I do end up revealing something like that, it's what I'm thinking and it's what I'm observing. And, so far we've shown, a lot of the sex linking is actually true. But we don't really have a definitive answer why. And it's still playing games with us. There's some new stuff this year going on. But I'm not going to say anything because somebody will accuse me of making up something. So for right now, I'll just stay mute.
Don't want to be accused of misinformation, Well,
we're always going to be accused. I'm certainly, I interpret things sometimes wrong. And I do not have any kind of education in genetics. I'm certainly a pretty intelligent guy where I think I can understand stuff. But, snake genetics, when we talk genetics and snakes, we are probably offensive to a geneticist that actually really gets it and talks very analytical and scientific, where we're, this is our hobby. This is, this is fun. This is finger painting. So it's our interpretation. We're using things like codominant when probably the exact term is incomplete dominant. It's not completely, exhibiting its, dominance until it goes into the superform. All different kind of stuff like that. But we use codom, and codom seems to work. So we're using a lot of tongue-in-cheek type things. It was remarkable. About a month ago, I read something that genetics have to make sense. And I guess if you went and took it from that particular person's mouth, they pretty much sum it up all, because the genetics don't have to make sense. It's the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard. Snake genetics don't make sense until we start getting more of the variables in the equation. Eventually they may make sense, but it's far from being an exact science. And I think because it doesn't make sense and it's not an exact science, it's why we are so compelled to breed snakes in our spare bedrooms or whatever, because it's awesome. We don't know what it's going to be. We're kind of playing little, our own little gods, and, what is this going to be? There's people, it could be somebody with 3 snakes, and they breed a pair of snakes, and all of a sudden they just made the new thing. If you look at like the monarch ball, that's Rance, who's a very nice guy, and I'm very happy to see somebody, with a very modest, size collection, all of a sudden spontaneously hatches out, genetic stripe, and then hatches out this monarch ball, that the monarch ball is like very, maybe it's the same thing as a burgundy albino, I don't know, but it's really, really nice. And he hatches it out of breeding, like 2 pastel jungles, which is just awesome. But genetics don't have to make sense.
And they're not going to. I mean, do we have to know everything? I mean, can we leave something that's unknown? Is that like a bad thing?
No, actually, I think that's why, if you say something is like hidden gene, I'll tell you this much, like hidden gene WOMA stuff, weird stuff is going on. I can't explain. And I love it when people scoff. Oh, there's no hidden gene in that. It's like, you're really, you're just awesome. You're a friggin' know-it-all. I love it, because those people, whenever somebody, like, pokes me or whatever, I come back, swinging. I love it when people mock, something that you're doing and, snickering in the background, making comments or whatever. It's like, so, yeah, when you get people, that dog you and stuff like that, that just gives me that much more energy to, kick butt with that project.
I'm the same way, brother. So your hidden gene lesser, is there any markers, that differentiate them?
Let me clarify this, because I think I said on the video I would eat some shoes. I think I'm going to have to look at some shoe recipes, because literally, in a nutshell, the lesser I got, my original lesser is from Africa. It's a product of breeding. We're dealing with Noah. So Noah's got, fantastic snakes in his collection that we don't know. So we hear this is a King Noah bred to a Queen Belinda, which is kind of like a Daddy Platty, I thought, bred to something else, and whatever. So I get this, very enticing story, the origin of the snake, and that's great. So I get that snake, I breed to a hidden gene WOMA, and we make Soul Sucker. So, oh my God, this is great, getting something reactive. And I will say that when I see other people's lessers, and, maybe we'll say a poorly trained eye that I have for lesser platinums, that some of my, these lessers, they tend to be very, very yellow. They're very, very pretty. Sometimes to the point they almost look like they have pastel. So I was like going, wow, these lessers I'm making don't, and even my original lesser doesn't look like some of these normal lessers. And I'm like, well, I was told it was from this breeding and that breeding, and it's real special, and it's got, some mumbo jumbo. So I just said, I discerned that my line of lesser, I just call it hidden gene, because I don't know what a King Noah and a Queen Belinda is. And when I went back and tried to revisit the story about the breeding of these snakes, I kind of got a different version of the story not too long ago. And I'm even more confused what the snakes are that create some of this stuff out there in Africa, which in itself is awesome, because it just means that there's maybe something else that's in these genes that we just haven't touched. So when I said my line of lesser, people can dog it all they want. It wasn't like I was going, oh, my line of lesser is $1 million. I was getting a bit more, and I was basically saying, like, hey, if I sell you hidden gene WOMA, I guarantee that my hidden gene WOMA with this lesser is going to make soul suckers. It is. I don't know if my hidden gene WOMA with somebody else's lesser or a butter is going to do it. Well, as time's going on, they are doing it. So right off the bat, I was wrong, and I flubbed, and it's it's a learning experience and stuff like that. But it's pretty much that's the story, and there's nothing else to it. So I just did that discerning. So I guess I could just go back to my yellow lessers that might look really pretty are just, I guess I just call them lesser platinums. But I'll just then I'll just say it's a nerd line lesser. That's it. So that's pretty much the story.
A man can own up to when he's wrong, so
sure.
Congrats, man. So the hidden gene WOMA, those sibs, do they carry a special gene, or is it 50%?
They definitely, I would say that they genetically have something that a normal classic wild type snake doesn't have, and what you do to unlock it is going to it's going to take a bit of time, but I would suspect that there's something that can be unlocked there, and I know for a fact they're normal looking snake, or sometimes they're weird looking too. You get like these whiter edges and stuff like that, and I pretty much in the past I just those were just normals out of my pet store, out of this different kind of stuff like that. But yeah, they have something, and we just got to figure it out, because if I can take a normal and breed it even to a champagne, and I can make a pearl or anything in that complex, it's carrying something. What's interesting about hidden gene WOMA, I can breed a hidden gene WOMA to a spider, or let's say like a bumblebee. So a bumblebee bred to a hidden gene WOMA, and I can make like a wannabe, it's a noisy bumblebee. But if I add a couple more genes to it, all of a sudden I can do that same kind of breeding. And let's say I bred it to like bumblebee pin, and I bred it back to hidden gene WOMA, I can bounce into producing pearls. It like does something and activates the the pearl factor, which is kind of, I don't quite understand why it's doing that. Sometimes it will do it, other times it won't. So as we start stacking these genes, it makes the hidden gene WOMA super or pearl factor, it makes it volatile, and it becomes unstable, and all of a sudden, boom, you get the spontaneous, pearl creation. So there's some stuff there I got to figure out. And I would definitely say that normal litter mates from hidden gene WOMAs have something, and now we got to unlock what they do.
You're the man to find out, for sure. So let's talk about what people really don't like. Talk about the shy away from the lethal combos. I have a list here, so you want to start rattling them off, or you want me to list them? Or?
Sure. Okay. Rafi wanted me, because, I will certainly, talk about, there's certainly fails, and he's like, I think, you probably want to tell people in one of the videos, so we did a little thing. Some of the fails, one thing that's really funny, people are like, don't do spider to spider. I do spider to spider, and it's fine. But, I'm I don't lose my mind if the snake, wobbles or tilts its head to the left or whatever. I don't care. If anything, it kind of makes it a little bit more endearing to me. I mean, I'm not talking about snakes that are twirling around, mindlessly upside down, but you'll get a spider in a little First Phillips shoebox, or a little shoebox that, as it hits the lid, it starts crawling up the side, hits the lid, and then it curls around back on itself. They'll do that, or if they get nervous, they might spaz all that. That can happen because the spider gene probably is right next door to a motor skill gene, which controls, inner ear or, the motor skills. And it's a defect. So the spider gene is probably right next to a defect gene. And you can see it sometimes in WOMAs. I see it with the sable. So if you take a sable and you bred to a spider, you can often create the lethal combo or near lethal combo. I do have a sable spider that actually is alive, and it's it's a young adult female at the moment. She's a bit dorky, but if you breed spider and sable together, a lot of times you'll get eggs that go almost full term and they die. They don't cut out or whatever. A super sable can be a snake afflicted with motor skill problems. They'll wobble their head, and they can die, but some of them can live too, and it can be perfect. So I guess that's like a roll of the dice. I think Super Champagne, I've always felt like Super Champagne was something that was likely to be a lethal gene. I felt like that once I bred it to the hidden gene Woma, and I started creating fantastic-looking, blasphemous creations. It's just like, oh my God, the snake is gorgeous, and it's going to die. And, some of them were just kind of okay, but kind of weak and wobbly and stuff like that. So I was like, I think this Super Champagne thing is going to be a negative. And I know David Green on King Snake posted a picture of Champagne to Champagne. It was a combo. And I can't definitively say it. I haven't held it in my hand, but I understand that snake didn't do, it didn't act like a normal snake, and I don't even know if that snake is still alive. Certainly Champagne Spider can be miserable and kind of limp. I did those years ago, and, some of them lived for a while, and I was very confused what was going on. But ultimately, I guess the real Champagne Spider doesn't do well, although I had some champagnes that I thought were spiders because they looked different, and maybe they ultimately turned out not to be that. So I think that's a lethal combo. I certainly think some of the spot nose stuff might have some issues with the super spot nose. Some of them are good, and some of them aren't good. So that probably is a little similar to the sable kind of thing. It's like a roll of the dice. But I don't think, I think certainly, pinstripe to pinstripe is great. That kind of stuff is good. I think we see spinal deformity issues with caramels. I think female caramels can be, certainly in my experience, can be very, very frustrating to get them to reproduce. And kinking can be a roll of dice. And it is my experience that multiple different lines, I think caramel albino carries, it brings in another gene which brings the potential for kinking. So I don't think you can necessarily say, I have a line of caramel albino that does not bring this gene, because we have caramels that have come out of the wild displaying kinking too. So I just think it's one of those things lining up that there's a gene right next to the color gene that makes caramel albinos that affects spinal deformities down by the vent and whatnot, and also might affect reproduction. Then we can go into desert. And desert, I love desert. Desert is a fantastic mutation as it stands. Combo factor, just monstrous. It's just, like a tank. When it comes in there, how it mates up with other things. It basically makes things show their true potential. Just looking at a desert to an enchi, fantastic. And these snakes, they display a little bit of, I think it's like a genetic personality thing. They tend to be a little more like volatile, a little more nervous, a little more bitey, a little more spastic. I've seen them where they're just, tenacious little monsters, just snap, 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 and whatever. And I noticed that the females weren't growing, or, would go through these periods of time where they didn't want to eat. And I started like, what's going on here? I didn't even know, about this, is female issue, reproductive issues and stuff like that. So I just started kind of realizing, maybe something's going on. And, is it hormones? I don't know, but it's probably quite likely a hormone kind of thing, because they're nervous. They can be more neurotic. They all of a sudden will go off feed, and certainly with male ball pythons, when we're breeding them, all of a sudden they go off feed or whatever, and a lot of that's hormonal too. As testosterone spikes in the blood, it basically lulls or whatever, mutes their appetite and stuff like that, and we get maybe hormones doing the same thing on these females. And this hormone, if it's truly a hormone, once again, this is my limited-minded interpretation of this, but this is pretty much a lot of us snake breeders. We give whatever we're feeling, and we have to hang on to something. So I don't think female deserts can produce, and that's going to be all lines. That's the Stanchiris Pro Exotics wine or the Pete Call line. And I'm not doing this to piss anybody off or anything like that. I just don't think that you can take that and just get them to reproduce. We know a lot of stud clutches, females actually dying, being gravid and dying. I think they don't ever really even ovulate. Like, I don't think they ever release mature ovum that could ever become fertilized, because I think the snake prematurely ovulates, and maybe the hormone that makes it neurotic or the hormone that makes it not want to eat affects luteinizing hormones. And luteinizing hormones, in a nutshell, are the hormones that regulate, in a snake that is growing follicles or ovum, they grow at different rates. So let's say if you have 6 growing ovum, they have to grow to a certain size where they become mature, and at that point they are waiting to be fertilized, where they can become a fertile, viable egg. And since they don't mature quite at the same time, you might get a couple that mature, and then they have to wait for the other ones to mature, and they all catch up. In the perfect world, all of them, all 6 of them are now mature ovum. The luteinizing hormones elevate enough where they cause the snake to basically push these mature ovum out of the ovaries into the oviduct, and that 24-ish hour period of movement, we recognize that as ovulation. And that's where basically sperm meets mature ovum, and then that goes into the oviduct, and they are then, they start, growing into these shelled eggs. And that's my long-winded interpretation of, ovulation for these snakes. But if you have a snake that's neurotic and antsy, maybe it makes that snake ovulate or become more reactive to these luteinizing hormones. So a nervous snake might ovulate prior to any of those ovum ever being mature, and that's why we get these animals slugging out. And if that's the case, then really I don't know what the solution is to ever get that snake to become a reproductive, viable animal. And people talk about, we can, incubate them cooler. We can do, so we don't get hot females. Maybe that's it. Who knows? But I don't think you can stack a whole bunch of different genes on it, and to think that we can outbreed it by adding Enchi and Coral Glow or any magical thing to it. It's not going to take away that thing. That's there. That's ingrained. That's part of the snake. So when we start looking at deserts, the value in deserts are the massive genetic ability of that gene, but it's in the male. The males are worth it. The females become fantastic-looking pets. And, I can't wait for somebody to smack me in the face on this one, because I think that's going to be a long time. I'm going to be this, geriatric retard in some bed, and they can finally tell me, but it's just, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't, and I don't know how that makes people feel about me saying that or not, because, I'm certainly taking, hits on the desert thing. But I have a little thing that I think we can reverse engineer desert stuff. And I have just a gene that I'm quietly playing with, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
All right, we're going to go back over to the dark side. Your hidden gene Woma Granite Yellow-Bellied Fader. That thing's awesome also. Yeah,
that's the Fader. The Fader basically came out of Lemon Pastel. And essentially what it was is I did Inferno to Lemon Pastel. So it was actually Lemon Pastel, basically Inferno, bred to a Lemon Pastel. And I hatched out Super Inferno, Super Pastel Inferno. And when I bred that snake to another snake, I would have expected every baby to be pastels. Well, it turns out they weren't. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm getting these snakes with these fading and all this stuff like that. And I'm like, wow. So I was wrong. It wasn't a Super Inferno, but it's something else going on, and it was blushing it out. But it basically did something very similar to what we would expect a super pastel gene to do. So we started creating this different graduations of fader, whether it's just one saddle with this, blushing through the saddle that goes over the back, or ones where it looks like, like whole areas of the snake, the pattern's fading out, and it's just the white underneath is coming through, and it's like, it's erasing things. It's taking away pigment, and it's doing that. So as we've been playing around with it, the fader thing is now, like, when you use fader on top of yellow belly, it does really cool things in best case scenarios, or best case examples, because not every fader is mind-blowing. In fact, some faders are rather subtle, and other ones are a bit more rare, the more excessive ones, but are rather dramatic. But we've shown, from the breedings that we've done, and I've sold some of these animals to a couple different people, and they're like doing stuff, and it's like, that's just awesome. You mix fader into enchi, and like a breeder I sell to, his name's Levance, and he bred it to an enchi. I never did that, and he makes like this cool looking enchi, and then he breeds it to something else. So right off the bat, he's on the road to doing stuff that I haven't even done yet. But it's working, and it kind of started mating up really well with the hidden gene Woma yellow belly stuff, and it makes these really, really nice flames. And this year, I had my hidden gene Woma granite yellow belly fader male, and he was almost a dud. I don't think I saw much activity out of this male. I think I might have seen a little bit of breeding, a little bit of courting, but he just didn't do what he wanted to do. And once again, like every year, my males, whatever, let's say I had, 50 males, and I was using that for breeding or whatever it is, I might have, 30 good breeders in there, and I have some that just absolutely do not breed, don't want anything to do with it. And the same thing goes with females. Like you said, like last year, you didn't have a good year. You're going to have good years and bad years. You'll have males that are just crushing it one year, and the next year, completely. I have males that have not even bred at all, ever. I got like a gargoyle ball from Amir. I've had that snake for years. I've never been able to get the snake to breed, and it's a really fantastic snake. It's gorgeous. I'm like, I'd love to do some stuff with it. I'm just staring at the snake, basically begging the snake to breed, and it will not do it. And
have you shipped it to a friend and let them try it? That normally works.
No, I haven't, because I really like it, and I really want to do something with it. And
take them for a car ride. Take them for a spin. That might work.
Yeah, I'll do something like that. I'll stick it in my freezer for 5 minutes and tell it I was just kidding. I don't know, but I've put him with other males and stuff like that. He just doesn't. He doesn't seem to have any of the urge. His testosterone levels are nil.
So, okay, after all the failures, why don't you tell our listeners how you felt when you finally had some soul-sucker pearl success?
Yeah, that one kind of caught, if that's truly what it is, it kind of caught me off guard. But once again, genetics don't have to make sense. So if we start making, I don't quite even know what it is. So I'm going to need a little bit more time on that one before I can sit here and defiantly take my fist and shake it in the air. I will tell you, I'm 9 pearls in the freezer this year. So I keep trying, and I keep failing.
Well, that's what makes you successful. I'm positive. You just don't quit. So we're going to just list off some animals here, and just, give us your thoughts on them. The lesser fader coral glow.
Love it. Awesome. I can't wait. It's not big enough. It did not breed this year, but it's awesome.
All right. How about the phantom coral glow?
Pretty excited about that one. I have phantom we'll throw fader on this like a sprinkling of salt, but it comes out of that breeding. But there could be phantom, coral glow with fader in there. It could also be pastel, phantom, coral glow. There's 2 different males, and I think we might see something out of that this year for resulting offspring. But I'm super excited about that. I love the phantom stuff. Phantom does some really strange things that don't necessarily make sense as far as genetics, where you have the snake that's leaning towards black, and all of a sudden it makes snakes that go yellow. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And the super phantom complex and all that kind of stuff is awesome. So I really want to see the super phantom coral glow, and there might be a chance this year.
Awesome. Hopefully you hit that. Good luck. So okay, this next one's a mouthful. Super pastel, black pastel, spider granite, possibly Woma. Did you get to prove that out yet, or?
No, that happens to be a girl. She's like this really kind of white gray snake, super busy, lots of dotting on her, which kind of leans towards the granite thing. But I haven't gotten to prove that out. What happens when you start mixing cinnamon pastel into the like Inferno complex, Hidden Gene Woma stuff? It completely just screws up everything. Stuff dissolves. It fades away. Your pattern gets obliterated and stuff like that. And so you stop being able to really appreciate what is occurring in there. Because I just did even cinnamon to Inferno, and I'm kind of like, what is this? I don't even know. Because all of a sudden you get these, sterling-looking, blank body, stripy kind of things, and you have no idea what it is. So I was not able to prove that just yet.
All right, back to the phantom pastel coral glow.
Yeah, it's I was just talking about that one. That's the snake right now that's actually breeding. And my breeding season is pretty much done, but there was he did a little bit of visiting, and we shall see if I can kind of pull something out there. Like I said, you get into the whole phantom times mocha, phantom times lemon, the blue-eyed Lucy thing, Mojave, mystic. That whole complex has a lot of room to really work. God, there's just so much cool stuff that can be done with that.
So what is the Arctic bee? I think I heard you say the spider of death. Did I hear you in the background?
Oh, no. Okay, Arctic bee is simple. It's a vanilla cream spider. That's all it is. And I just called it an Arctic bee because of all the bits of noise that's just kind of like on this very, very light-colored background and whatever. And it's, or blizzard bee or Arctic bee, whatever the heck you want to call it. Technically, you could call it vanilla cream bee, I guess, or whatever.
So it's 3 genes.
But that, it's whatever. I was super excited to make that. They're very, very pretty. Awesome, triple combo.
So, okay, how about the super lemon pastel fader yellow-bellied coral glow?
Super lemon fader pastel coral glow yellow-bellied. That snake is going to do some stuff. He's going to show us what I was able to do with that, because I bred that snake this year. And the fact that it has yellow belly in it definitively is awesome. I really want to make, even when we start going into like the leucistic ivory kind of complex stuff, I think if we start stacking a lot of stuff on things, things are going to fight to represent themselves. And it is my hope. Certainly, we've seen it in the whole mocha, phantom, lemon, all that, complex, that we can start revealing color and pattern, even technically on a leucistic background. So I'm going to try to do that with the whole yellow belly ivory complex. I would like to see if we can get coral glow to represent itself on an ivory. And there's some other, obviously, good stuff I don't want to jinx myself, but you can do the math. What would Kevin want to do with yellow belly coral glow? And we'll see how I do.
We'll be waiting in the wings for it. So how about the Hidden Gene Woma Enchi pin? That thing's pretty cool, too.
Hidden Gene Woma Enchi pin, all that stuff. Any kind of, when you start, yeah, I know what you're talking about. That has like the white, that snake is really cool. I mean, I make that snake with some other stuff on top of it so you don't get to like sit there and look at it. But that combo gives you like this kind of orange side with this really nice white edging going up the side, and that has a lot of potential. It really does. I recently just made like, here's one. I made a Super Inferno Enchi pin, and you might be able to sprinkle some fader on that. And it's little right now, but last year when I made the Super Inferno pin fader, that snake from when it was born to what it looks like right now is such a contrast. And this one I just recently hatched, I just mentioned, with the Enchi in there, I expect a lot of things out of it. And as a byproduct, it can make that triple gene that you're talking about. So a lot of good things to be done right there.
Awesome. Again, we're talking with Kevin McCurley from NERD, that's New England Reptile Distributors. Really want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, coming on our show, and helping us make success out of this.
That's great. I could probably go on, as you know, for a lot of stuff. Like maybe next time we'll talk about metal, Crotalis, my band, or we can talk about.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk a lot about just working on unification of the herp industry. We have some ideas. We have some very big ideas that are kind of sitting in the on the sidelines. It's called GRAIN, which is Global Reptile Amphibian Invertebrate Network. And we have some great ideas about what we can do that's ultimately going to help everybody, and assembling ourselves, putting a face in our industry, and handshaking with other alliances that are going to help protect us. Because as everybody should know, and I could not stress more, I don't care if you're keeping a leopard gecko or a ball python and you have 3 pets. I don't think you want somebody telling you you can't keep your bearded dragon because it could get loose, or it's going to spread salmonella or some disease, or it's going to hurt somebody or anything. Because once you have these as your pets and you know these animals and they're part of your life, you don't want to have some state agency, some federal agency, certainly some government agent telling you that you no longer can have them or you can't cross a state border, when we've been doing this for years without any injurious type things, except for if we want to talk about that very, very isolated situation going in southern Florida. But ultimately, I would really like to spend some time as we get this thing off the ground with GRAIN. As soon as I can focus, get my breeding season behind me a little bit, we're going to basically try to assemble, or we've already been doing it, we're getting the talents of our industry, and we need to collect ourselves, get everybody on the same page, and I mean literally everyone. We are all part of the same thing. And I don't care if this is somebody I hate. I want them on the same team because they can hate me for 10 different reasons, as I might hate them. But when it's all said and done, they're my friend, and we're all on the same team when it comes to the fact that we all love these animals. And I want every 8-year-old, every 10-year-old right now that's growing up that someday may keep a leopard gecko or a ball python, I want them to have the exact same opportunities that I have had. The problem is, as it is right now, probably, I don't know how to rationalize it or come up with a percentage, but I would say easily a quarter of my opportunities are no longer available to the kids that are growing up right now. And I started all of what I did from literally nothing. I remember going to Bob Clark's place and seeing this just ridiculous collection. And just like, oh my God, I had this one little snake room, And then I see Bob Clark with this fantastic collection of all these different species I could dream about. I didn't even know what they were and all this different stuff. And the thing that did it more importantly, because I didn't have money, I had an incredible drive and I absolutely love animals. And I was like, I aspired to breeding animals, making them and creating more and more of them and, telling other people how much I love them. And I think that's critical for new people that are getting into it now and people that haven't even gotten into it, because I love the rainforest. I love the coral reefs. I love, I want all these different animals. I don't care if it's an eastern cottontail rabbit. I'm concerned about their future. And these animals that we keep are learning tools. This is how we get people to open their minds up, open their ideas of what is scary, what has a purpose on this planet, what doesn't. And I think, the stuff, if it's a rattlesnake, whatever, they all have a right to be there. And the animals that we're keeping are educating other people that normally would live in this plastic world of going to 7-Eleven, going to McDonald's. Everything is plastic and chipboard and all this different stuff, and video games, and they have no presentation of these animals. Just the endless amount of people, and I know we all know, you show them a ball python, and they're like, I thought it was slimy. I thought it was this. I thought it was that. And that's, all that education is critical to all of us. And I basically am just rambling on about, but I think we all are on the same page when it comes to that, and I want everybody to retain their rights. And we need to collect as a community and then figure out how to re-educate the general world that thinks that snakes are dangerous and slimy and all these make-believe movie subjects.
Well, you heard it here. Be on the lookout for Grain. That's a Nerd's new...
It won't be just nerds. I'm the guy that came up with it, but we got some pretty much bigwigs in this whole industry, so it's going to be... It's a community. So if you listen to this thing, hopefully in 4 months, people are going to be like, okay, I'm aware of what's going on now.
Awesome. Well, we'll be on standby waiting for the green light. And, we'll have you back on here anytime, man. You just let us know, and we'll get you in here.
Jason, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, Kevin, just hold on 1 second. That was Kevin McCurley from New England Reptile Distributors, Nerd. Again, thank you, Kevin. Her Perforay out.